checking this. Okay, we mentioned the kids were being evacuated to Oakdale Baptist Church. That is where they were taken by bus to meet their parents. And Dave Jordan is there. And Dave, we see you now. So Dave, bring us up to speed. What do you see there?
Well, Gordon, we have a lot of relief parents coming to Oakdale Baptist Church. This is where the parents of Townsville students, elementary students, were told to come to pick up their children. I'm going to get a shot over my shoulder. This is what is greeting them when they arrive here. You see a lot of police cars, but you also see a long line of cars, sort of like a number of cars just waiting so they can pull over and retrieve their children. Now, if you can pan over to the left, this is a little bit of a traffic jam right now, people trying to navigate as well. I've spoken to a couple of parents, many of them shedding tears of relief, very overwhelmed by the events of the day, as you as a parent, Gordon, could certainly imagine. Others are making their way, parking away from the school, from the church right now, rather, and walking up the hill to go and retrieve those children. We have a police officer, a sheriff's deputy as well, directing traffic. As I mentioned, many people coming in the distance from all over the area to try to see if their children are among the ones that were taken here, which is where some of the parents have been told to route. There is also a heavy police presence here, independent of directing traffic. You can see some of the flashing blue lights, many of them standing guard, a lot of parents talking on cell phones, communicating with people. This is a very highly charged scene right now, and we are going to stay here and continue to cover it as these developments unfold throughout the day. A lot of parents relieved, some anxious, but many of them hoping to be reunited with their children that they haven't seen since this morning when they dropped them off, or when the bus dropped them off at Townsville Elementary.
Dave, how are they doing that? The reuniting of parents and kids. You know, they have a lot of very strict procedures for how parents pick up their kids at the school, but this is a terrifying and unusual situation. What are they doing?
Well, what they're doing, and the buses are taking children here, which is what my understanding is. We've seen at least 2 or 3 school buses. Scott Metzger is working on the camera for me. Scott, if you can zoom in beyond the church sign, you can see one of the school buses here. Presumably, that school bus is filled with children, dropping them off to this location so that they can be reunited with their parents. Now I'm going to have the camera pan a little more, if possible. Right over my shoulder, you can see parents walking away with their children. Take a shot right here. These are some of the parents who have collected their children and are walking back to the cars, many of them relieved, children clinging to their parents. Some of them were even crying, highly emotional, as you can imagine. People want to be reunited with their kids. This is a very emotional scene right now, and it's also a very dramatic scene that is playing out in real time. This is something that schools prepare for all the time, but it's one of these things, Gordon, stay on the shots. This is one of the things that, you know, schools prepare for all the time, but certainly something they hope does not happen. And that is what we're hearing a lot of right now. A lot of anxiety, a lot of relief for the parents who have finally connected with their children, and a heavy police presence here this afternoon as parents are reunited at Oakdale Baptist Church on Highway 24 in Townsville. Gordon?
Yeah, Dave, I'm sorry, as a parent, this is the worst thing that can ever happen, ever, to hear that there's been a shooting at your child's school. So what we're going to do is try and talk to some of those folks responding to that scene, to school officials, about how they're organizing that. That was Oakdale Baptist Church, where the kids from Townsville Elementary, as Dave showed you, some of the buses bringing those kids in. We watched as they were evacuated from the school there today, and now those parents who at some point today got a phone call from Anderson District 4 saying there's been a shooting at your child's school. Don't pick them up at the school. Pick them up at Oakdale Baptist. A terrifying situation and heartbreaking to watch. You saw these kids clinging to their mothers and fathers as they're being walked away. I tell you what, let's take another look as we watch some of these parents. This is Oakdale Baptist Church, and these are pictures live of the law enforcement sort of protecting these kids as we watch them evacuated from the school by Oconee County deputies, Anderson County deputies, and the Highway Patrol, evacuating every kid, parent, and employee from the school, and they are being taken here to Oakdale Baptist. That's where all the parents are now being reunited with their children as we watch that happen here. The thing that's, I'm sorry, almost hard to even watch here is these are such small kids. These are elementary school kids who at some point today during a Wednesday at school were evacuated from the building. because someone started shooting at school. And while we're trying to figure out the details of exactly what happened, we know that Anderson County Sheriff's deputies tell us they have a teenager in custody. They measure it, they put tape measures next to it for perspective in that photograph, and they are logging literally everything that could potentially be connected to this shooting at the school and making sure it is cataloged and used, because again, they say they have a suspect, a teenager, in custody, and as this moves from a crime scene to a prosecution to criminal charges, then every single piece of evidence that they come across in that school has to be undisturbed so that they can catalog it and use it to prosecute somebody later on.
Which is why the police presence there is going to be a long road, and of course we'll be keeping you informed on what will be happening tomorrow, obviously another school day. It's also why the students were transported to Oakdale Baptist Church nearby so that parents could pick them up. This is a live shot here of a parent picking up their child, and again, we've been talking about, you know, the dinner conversations that are going to be going on tonight from the students there and around the upstate. And Oakdale Baptist Church is where our Dave Jordan has been live this afternoon, talking with parents who are still picking up their students at that new location. So let's go once more to Dave. I understand that you've been speaking with some more parents. Dave.
Sure. Exactly. Hi there. Hello there. We just caught up with this gentleman. Cody Garrett is his name. He has a 7-year-old daughter who goes to Townsville Elementary, and you told me you were freaked out. I saw you walking up here, and you were pretty agitated.
Yeah, we didn't know anything was wrong at first. So I write for Blue Lives Matter Facebook page, so I was writing about trying to find something to write about today, and this came across the screen, and my daughter goes here, so I didn't know anything about it until that point. And so I headed up here, but she's okay.
Does she know what happened, or does she just know that she was taken somewhere to go meet with her parents?
She's just scared. She said she didn't like that. Yeah, but she's good though.
Did anybody, you heard about it while you were online, did anyone from your family get an alert of any kind?
Someone called us right after I saw it on the news actually and told us about it, said to meet here, and that's all they said. So we didn't even know if she was okay or not. Right. So we got here and saw her.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by and talking to us. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Cody. That was one of the rare examples where he heard it through an external source. Everyone here who I spoke to, the parents that picked up their children, are telling me that they heard about this through an alert by the school. So, this news is spreading quickly, as well it should. Many people still concerned about the events of the day. Take a look behind me. Some of those cars that were hovering in the area to pick up their children, they're now starting to leave, and there's a little bit of some wiggle room for drivers to get away from the scene as more parents start to arrive. You have to realize some people are coming in from work, some people are coming in from the other side of Anderson to try to pick up their children after hearing about this. Now there still remains a heavy police and law enforcement presence here. We've seen the Anderson County Fire Department. They are starting to arrive. These are some of their vehicles that are driving by as I speak. So there is going to continue to be a presence here for those parents who are arriving to pick up their children. You just heard from Mr. Garrett. He said he was agitated. He was very anxious. A lot of people are coming here in a highly emotional state, and they're picking up their children. They don't know what to expect. Some of the children don't know the gravity of what happened. The little girl telling me that, or he told me that his daughter told him that she was scared. I spoke with another little girl, a 4-year-old named Amber Jolly. She came up to our cameras and told me, a bad guy came to our school today. Yeah. So there are different levels of children responding to this. Some children are walking away not aware of what's happening. Some children all too aware of what happened today, and they're waiting to go home with their parents, and a lot of anxiety and a lot of quelled, calm nerves after they're reunited with their children. We are still going to stay on the scene here at Oakdale Baptist Church on Highway 24 as this phalanx of parents comes to retrieve their children after this horrible day over at Townsville Elementary.
Dave,
Gordon, Diane, back
I
to
want
you.
to know, you mentioned, and as parents, both of us want to know this, because I get these reverse calls for sort of mundane events at my kids' school, right? I mean, registration day or whatever. As a parent, and when you talk to them, they got these alerts on their phones. What does the alert say? Because the idea that you're rushing out and not knowing whether it's your kid involved is what I want to know.
Right, we didn't really talk about that, so I haven't seen the actual alert because we're just so busy trying to get the information. But a lot of them are telling us that they heard from the school first. So whether that comes in a text message or whether it comes in a recorded message or whether it's someone in the front office of the school calling parents individually, emergency numbers and saying this is what's going on. We don't know what system they have in place, but most of the parents tell me that that system worked and they were able to get their children and to retrieve their children. You know, we spoke with that other parent who said that there need to be armed guards or the parents need to be carrying guns. Someone walked by and said we need to have metal detectors in every single school. I mean, these are conversations that we're going to continue to have as unfortunately these school shootings continue to happen. So right now they're just happy that the system, the alert system that the school Anderson District 4 put in place worked in this instance, which of course they want it to work in this instance, but they never want this type of call to go out because you don't want this sort of thing to happen at your school.
And Dave, the father that you just spoke with really touched on something that I think we all can relate to, which is that he showed up at the school not knowing if his child was hurt. Obviously in those alerts you know to some extent that something's not right, you need to show up and pick up your child, but you do that under the circumstance that you don't know if your child is one of the ones that was hurt. So right. What are you noticing there among parents?
Right, and that was exactly what I touched on earlier. I said a lot of these parents are walking up here anxious, not knowing what to expect. You get a call that says, come get your child, or you get a text message or some sort of alert. You just go. You don't stop to think. You guys are parents. You know how this works. Everything is secondary. You just go and get your child. But when you hear about you have to come and get your child, there's been a shooting, you don't know if your child is a victim of that shooting. So you can imagine a lot of frantic parents coming up here, and when they're leaving, there's that calm, that sense of relief because they have their child unharmed, unhurt, and this is where we are. Now, right now, there's a fire truck coming by here, and take a look over here. This is one of the emergency services from Townsville. We don't know why the siren is engaged, so we're going to try to get some more information about that, and I'll throw it back to you guys in the studio.
That's our Dave Jordan. It is now coming up on 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so let's bring you completely up to speed and trying to get more of an understanding of exactly what that child's condition. All we know is there was a shooting at the school.
Right, and we're looking now at just what happened a little bit earlier today when parents were picking up their children at Oakdale Baptist Church, which is very near the elementary school. That's where students were transported so that the investigators could continue working the scene without the presence of parents. And you can only imagine as parents pick up, trying to figure out what's going on. Is their child okay? And then they have their child, they bring them home, and then the big conversation we've been having today is how you talk with your kids about something as grave as that. They had received a text alert, but then they were informed that the students were being transported to Oakdale Baptist Church. That's where our Dave Jordan has been most of the afternoon, and Dave's been getting the pulse of how parents are reacting as they show up to pick up their kids, and we return live. Dave, once more, what's the scene like right now?
Well, the scene right now, Diane, is that a lot of the parents have come and taken their children, and they have walked away or driven away from the scene. You can see now that there is still a heavy police presence and law enforcement presence here, but those cars that were sort of jam-packed and had at a standstill on this highway, Highway 24 specifically, that is now thinned out. Now traffic is seeming to move back and forth in both directions, even though the police and the law enforcement are still on scene at this point. A lot of parents arrived here very anxious, very emotional. All they got was an alert from the school, many of them telling me that just said, go pick up your child at Oakdale Baptist Church off of Highway 24. They get here, they don't know what's going on. En route here, they find out there's been a shooting. So now they have two things to worry about. I have to pick up my child, and there's a shooting at my child's school. Is my child okay? Where do I go from here? I mean, these are the things that are racing through their mind, and many of them came here in a very anxious state. They left relieved with their children, knowing that they were unharmed and that everything was happening. A little girl, Amber Jolly, 4 years old, a student at Townsville Elementary, came up to me and said, a bad guy came to my school today. This is what some of the kids are seeing and some of the kids are hearing. Other children, meanwhile, aren't really aware of what happened. One parent said he hasn't discussed it fully. He just knew that his daughter was scared, so they're going to sit down and talk with her about what happened at the school today. There's also a lot of outcry from parents about whether or not the school should have more guards, or the teachers should be armed, or whether there should be metal detectors around the school, conversations that we will be talking about in the coming days as the gravity of this starts to sink in and hits home for many people who never thought something like this would happen in Townsville, at Townsville Elementary, a school of 300 students. Back to you guys.
And Dave, we should note, I mean, there's a field behind you. This is a rural community, one that doesn't have necessarily security guards in an elementary school. So I think you really hit it home there when you said that people really never thought it would happen in Townsville. Gordon brought up the point earlier about the messages, the alerts that were sent on the cell phone. So I wanted to ask you, had you ever heard from any of the parents that any type of alert was sent to them on the cell phone before? I know they can't be very descriptive, so parents, many of them, you said, didn't know what they were showing up to.
Right. We didn't talk in detail about that. I mean, obviously they had other priorities and they had other concerns, but they all told me that they got an alert from the school. Now, whether that was a text message or whether that was an email or whether that was, some sort of phone call, it did come from the school, and by all accounts, the system that Anderson District 4, which is the district Townsville is in, worked, according to the parents. Now, they heard, like I said, they got the text, they got the alert, I should say. And then en route here, they found out there was a shooting. So now they're coming here in a highly emotional state, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what condition their children are in. And this is one of the things that they were concerned about. So now, a lot of the crowd is starting to thin out. If I step out of the way, you can see Highway 24 is open in both directions. A law enforcement presence on scene. We saw ATF, we saw sheriff's deputies from Anderson County. We also saw a Townsville Emergency Services unit drive by, blaring a siren for reasons that are unclear at this point. So things are starting to settle down a little bit here at Oakdale Baptist Church, and parents, obviously, some still making their way here, but most of them have come and gone, and you'll be hearing a lot more from them throughout our broadcast, because we spoke to a couple of them, and we'll have those messages and those words for you later on. Back to you guys.
So how a person could get into that building is something they're going to be looking at, and then exactly what happened once that person was inside. Those are the details that the deputies and the investigators from both the state and 2 sheriff's offices are working to piece together now. But we're showing you more of this from Oakdale Baptist Church, where these families are being reunited. I mean, these folks, what you're looking at is people who are wearing their work uniform. Okay, these are people who got a call that they had to respond and pick up their children somewhere else because of a shooting at Townsville Elementary School. And we're bringing you this because, well, frankly, it is a scene that nobody ever wants to see. It is absolutely awful, and at least you're watching parents who now have some confirmation that their children are okay. But a terrible, stressful situation for any parent, and these elementary school children, 286 of them at that school, at least according to the last state estimate, all of them have endured something that no child should ever have to endure. And we know for sure, as the Anderson County Sheriff's Office tells us, they have one person, a suspected shooter, a teenager, in custody, meaning that these kids you see walking with a family member or a family friend to a car have been in school during a shooting incident today. We do not know the extent of the injuries to the people injured. We again know that a teacher has been injured, and according to Christine and her conversations with investigators there on the ground, 2 children also were injured. So these pictures brought to us by Dave Jordan, who's been out on the ground. Boy, these parents one at a time walking and certainly letting other family members know that they have found a child who is okay at this point. Do we, in the control room, do we still have Dave standing by out there? Can we talk to him? All right, Dave Jordan is on the scene. Dave, let's bring us up to speed on what you're seeing there. Just, tell us what you see.
You know, Gordon, this is beyond surreal. I mean, you have school buses parked next to police vans and sheriff's deputies and ATF officers all swarming around the Oakdale Baptist Church here on Highway 24. Now, as you mentioned, this is where parents are coming to pick up their children, and this is where they were told to pick up their children from Townsville Elementary. I saw a number of parents walking with children. I stopped and I talked to them, a lot of them seeing the camera and seeing the mic, and they said, hey, you know, brother, I just want to get my kids home. You know, thank God my kids are okay. That's the sentiment that we are hearing on an endless loop of sorts as they continue to pick up their children and retrieve their children under a heavy police and local law enforcement presence. This is just basically unbelievable. Many people walking around almost shell-shocked even that this has happened in their neighborhood. You know, we'll likely speak to people here in Anderson and in Townsville who will say, you know, we see this on television. We never thought that something like this will happen here. This is what you hear from other students or from other people who have this in the community. And you can just see parents just relieved walking with their kids. Some of the children not even aware really of the magnitude of what's going on. You see a family walking right now who just came to pick up their children. I spoke with a gentleman who had two sons. One is 8, one is 6. They were both students at Townsville Elementary. They're on their way home right now. And this is just, you know, an unbelievable situation. And this is something that people are having to deal with in small town America and in South Carolina. And, you know, I'm gesturing over here. I'm going to talk with this gentleman. Hi there. Hi, you're live on Channel 7. I'm Dave Jordan with 7. You got a call to pick up your children as well.
Yes.
Tell me what's going through your mind right now.
It's the world we live in today, unfortunately. I'm just glad that my children are safe. Thank you, Jesus. And we're just praying for the other kids that I don't know exactly what happened. So.
And I know that you probably got an alert on your phone, or the school notified you. And
the school called me twice automatically. I called my wife. I found out from work. I called my wife. She's at home, so she rushed to the school. So.
Yeah. You seem, I mean, you're obviously very relieved. A lot of parents had the same expression that we had spoken to coming out of here. But I just want to thank you for talking with us and stopping. I know it's been a very emotional day. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, that is pretty much a sample of what we've been seeing and hearing in and around Townsville, especially here at Oakdale Baptist, where parents are coming to retrieve their children. Take a look at this line as well. I talked about the police presence. This is what we are seeing. You know, the flashing blue lights letting people in the distance know that this is the location. There is also a sheriff's deputy here directing traffic, some people trying to navigate around it, other people trying to find a place to park so that they can go and collect their children. So this is what we're seeing, and this is how it's going down right now. And, you know, like I mentioned, I said it before and it bears repeating, this is a very surreal situation, especially for people in Townsville and in Anderson County as a whole. Gordon, back to you.
All right, Dave Jordan standing by live, and Dave will stay there and get more of that as we bring Diane Lee into our coverage here.
Air 7 gives you another look at the crime scene there at Townsville Elementary School. Again, here's what we know about what has happened today. A shooting at Townsville Elementary has left 3 people injured. 2 were students, 6 years old each. One was a teacher. A boy and a female teacher taken to Anderson Area Medical Center. ANMED officials tell us those 2 patients are in good condition. Another child taken to the trauma center at Greenville Memorial Hospital. That child had to be airlifted and is in more serious condition. Now there is a second crime, as you just heard, connected to this shooting. That's on Osborne Road in Anderson County, and that is where authorities say they found 47-year-old Jeffrey Osborne shot to death. The juvenile suspect in the school shooting is in custody. Authorities say the shooter is tied to the victim in the Osborne Road shooting. Now, school officials are telling us classes at Townsville Elementary have been canceled for the rest of the week.
Is have school. In other words, I don't have to go to school to have school.
Got it.
So I want to get up, and the routine that we do that routine. If we have a reading time, if we have a play time, we just don't have it at school. We have it at home.
Well, we've got a little breaking news to tell parents. This could be good news for them to share with their kids, that we're just learning that the 2 ANMED patients have been released. So that's some good news you can share and tell the kids things are improving. So that's good stuff.
All right, Roger Rhodes, we are most appreciative of you coming in so quickly and joining us and sharing some very important perspective tonight. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Now, we want to give you again the bottom line about what we know about today's shooting at Townsville Elementary. 3 people hurt. 2 were students, 6 years old each. One was a teacher. A boy, a female teacher taken to Anderson Area Medical Center. We've just learned they have been released from the hospital. Extremely good news there. Another child taken to the trauma center at Greenville Memorial Hospital. The child was airlifted to that hospital. We are waiting for an update on the child's condition. And we have confirmed that a second crime scene that was near the school is indeed connected to the shooting on Osborne Road in Anderson County. That's where authorities say they found 47-year-old Jeffrey Osborne shot to death. The juvenile suspect, we hear he is 14 years old in the shooting, has been taken into custody, and authorities say the shooter is related to the victim in the Osborne Road shooting. School officials say they have canceled classes at Townsville Elementary for the rest of the week. Let's go to Dave Jordan. Dave.
Hey there, Tom and Amy. Yeah, this was the scene where family members came to collect their children after Townsville Elementary students were taken away from that campus. They were bused over here to Oakdale Baptist Church on Highway 74 in Townsville. That's about 10 minutes away. And parents came here frantic, emotional, and anxious to connect with their children. I believe we have some video of just some of the scene that you could see over here. Now, we had parents coming here, but in addition to that, we had a heavy law enforcement presence here as well. Several parents telling me that they got the alert on their phone and they rushed right over. I believe we have some sound. Let's go to that right now.
It just come up, alerted me on my phone, and at first you think, oh, I don't know what to do. Is it really happening and going on? And then started hearing broadcast and got in the car and came up.
Obviously the worst, but at the same time, hopeful in prayers that that everything was okay. It's not ever a situation that, obviously, it's not a phone call you ever want to get, but in the end, everything worked out, and at least for my son and I, he's okay.
Now, a lot of the parents tell me they were very relieved, obviously, when they reconnected with their children. It was a very stark contrast, because when they came here, a lot of them just heard that there was an incident at the school, come collect your children, and then they heard the news broadcast about a shooting. So when they came here, they didn't know what to expect. And when they left, obviously they were a lot more relieved. Some of the children didn't even know what was going on, but one 4-year-old, Amber Jolly, came over to my camera and told me a bad guy came to our school today. So this is something a lot of parents are going to be discussing with their children, and there are a lot of relieved families tonight that their children were not hurt in this incident. We are live tonight outside of Oakdale Baptist Church on Highway 74 in Townsville. Dave Jordan, 7 News.
Yeah, we'll keep all those families, children in our thoughts and prayers again tonight, Dave. Thank you so much for that. Again, here is what we know, the bottom line and what has happened today. A shooting at Townsville Elementary. 3 people hurt. 2 were 6-year-old students. 1 was a teacher. A boy and a female teacher were taken to Anderson Area Medical Center, and we have learned they have been released, so extremely good news there. Another child was airlifted to the trauma center at Greenville Memorial Hospital. We're waiting to get an update on the condition on that child. There is a second crime scene connected to the shooting at the school. You've been hearing about that in our news. Osborne Road in Anderson County. It's not far from the school, and that's where authorities say they found 47-year-old Jeffrey Osborne shot to death. The juvenile suspect in the school shooting, 14 years old, is in custody. A volunteer firefighter from Townsville tackled him. Authorities say that shooter is tied to the victim in the Osborne Road shooting. School officials say they have canceled classes at Townsville Elementary for the rest of the week.
And 7 News is coming right back with continuing coverage as we follow the Townsville Elementary School shooting.
We think if we just overtell, the child will feel more secure. No, the child's going to go, that they're lying to me, and they're out of control. And that really scares a child. So the biggest thing a parent can do is set a situation where they listen. I want to bring them in. Is there anything you want to know? You've been listening to it on news. You've been seeing this going on. Yes, it was tragic. You know, be honest right up front. Yeah, it's a terrible thing that happened. But one thing that's inside of most adults is when their children are threatened, they want to babyize them. Yeah. Oh, my baby, oh, and they hug, and I want to protect you. That doesn't secure a child. That scares a child. Gotcha. They know I'm not a baby. Don't talk to me like a baby. No, deal with it. One of the things, you listen first, and then the number one thing you want to say to a child is family. Our family, this family. Our family does this. These will be the family rules. That secures a child. Oh gosh, it isn't just me. It's all of us. It's a unit. It's a team. You know, you want to think almost like a football team.
Sure.
We're on the roads team, and the roads team does this. Wow, they get that. They've seen sports on TV. They understand the importance of being on a team. Again, that grows them up.
Really quickly, this, of course, will be a conversation you have today. It may go well. You may feel like, oh, okay, we're in good shape. What do parents need to be watching out for in the days, weeks, months to come as far as a sign that you need to talk some more, get some help?
The number one thing you need to look at is the action of your children. Children are very nonverbal.
Yeah.
You know, so one of the things, if they are a little off or things don't make sense to them or they feel insecure, they will act out. And is there anything wrong with that? No. But what they need is going back to, you know, I can understand you're feeling a little off base. But in our family,
Gotcha.
we don't do that.
Gotcha.
Dr. Rhodes, you've been so kind with your time tonight. We do appreciate you coming in and helping us this evening. Next on 7 News at 6, we're continuing to follow the Townsville Elementary School shooting. More details coming up as you get this live view of the school from Air 7. We know many of you are just getting home from work or from activities in the community, and you're wondering what's happened today in Townville. Here's the bottom line on all of it. A shooting at Townsville Elementary about 1:45 today left 3 people hurt. 2 of them were 6-year-old students. 1 was a teacher. A boy, a female teacher were taken to Anderson Area Medical Center. They have been released from the hospital. Good news there. Another child was taken to the trauma center at Greenville Memorial Hospital, had to be airlifted there. We are waiting for an update on that child's condition. Now, a second crime connected to the shooting on Osborne Road in Anderson County. It's very close to the school. That's where authorities say they found 47-year-old Jeffrey Osborne shot to death. The juvenile suspect, 14 years old, in the school shooting has been taken into custody. A volunteer firefighter from Townville tackled the suspect. Authorities say the shooter is tied to the victim in the Osborne Road shooting. School officials say they have canceled classes at Townsville Elementary for the rest of this week. A shooting at Townsville Elementary happened about 1:45 this afternoon, left 3 people hurt. 2 of them were 6-year-old boys, students there. 1 was a teacher. A boy and a female teacher taken to Anderson Area Medical Center. Officials tell us they have been released. The child is still in the hospital in Greenville.
We'll have a special hour from 7 to 8 o'clock as we continue our coverage. See you then.
7 News.
Let's go to Dave Jordan. Dave.
Hey there, Tom and Amy. Yeah, this was the scene where family members came to collect their children after Townsville Elementary students were taken away from that campus. They were bused over here to Oakdale Baptist Church on Highway 74 in Townsville. That's about 10 minutes away. And parents came here frantic, emotional, and anxious to connect with their children. I believe we have some video of just some of the scene that you could see over here. Now, we had parents coming here, but in addition to that, we had a heavy law enforcement presence here as well. Several parents telling me that they got the alert on their phone and they rushed right over. I believe we have some sound. Let's go to that right now.
It just come up, alerted me on my phone, and at first you think, oh, I don't know what to do. Is it really happening and going on? And then started hearing broadcast and got in the car and came up.
Obviously the worst, but at the same time, hopeful in prayers that that everything was okay. It's not ever a situation that, obviously, it's not a phone call you ever want to get, but in the end, everything worked out, and at least for my son and I, he's okay.
Now, a lot of the parents tell me they were very relieved, obviously, when they reconnected with their children. It was a very stark contrast because when they came here, a lot of them just heard that there was an incident at the school, come collect your children, and then they heard the news broadcast about a shooting. So when they came here, they didn't know what to expect. And when they left, obviously they were a lot more relieved. Some of the children didn't even know what was going on, but one 4-year-old, Amber Jolly, came over to my camera and told me a bad guy came to our school today. So this is something a lot of parents are going to be discussing with their children, and there are a lot of relieved families tonight that their children were not hurt in this incident. We are live tonight outside of Oakdale Baptist Church on Highway 74 in Townsville. Dave Jordan, 7 News.
Yeah, we'll keep all those families, children in our thoughts and prayers again tonight, Dave. Thank you so much for that.